Hello, I'm Raymond Go, and this is Nightline. The top stories. Dato Sri Najib granted stay of execution until final appeal in federal court. And GPS pledges stability and autonomy in 34-point manifesto. Good morning. The Court of Appeal said the conduct of Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Razak with regards to SRC International Sdn Bhd was not done for national interest, as the former Prime Minister had claimed. In delivering the unanimous decision rejecting Dato Sri Najib's appeal against his conviction and sentence for misappropriating 42 million ringgit belonging to SRC, Justice Dato Abdul Karim Abdul Jalil said the former Prime Minister did not take interest in a 4 billion ringgit loan to the former 1MDB unit once this had been disbursed. Judge Dato Abdul Karim further said Dato Sri Najib had even ordered then Second Finance Minister Dato Sri Ahmad Husni Hanatsla to lay off SRC International's matters when the latter had requested to intervene personally over fears of mismanagement. He said that this conduct of the appellant can be indicative of only one thing, and that is, once the funds had been secured by SRC, over which the appellant had overarching control, he was free to utilize them for his personal benefit. He said this is manifested by the flow of the 42 million ringgit into his personal accounts, and this is not something that can be said to have been done in national interest. In any case, the appellate court rightly pointed out that it would be rather absurd for the government to guarantee a loan to a government-linked corporate body, knowing well that the corporate body does not have the ability to repay the loan serviced or interest. The appellate court also noted that Dato Sri Najib had been instrumental and active in ensuring SRC International obtained a 4 billion ringgit loan from the Retirement Fund KWAP in 2011 and 2012. Dato Sri Najib was both Prime Minister and Finance Minister at the material time, where he had obtained the Cabinet's approval for the disbursement of the loan from KWAP to SRC International. The bench then concluded that the learned trial judge was entirely correct in finding that the prosecution had proved the charge under Section 23, subsection 1 of the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act for abuse of power beyond reasonable doubt. Following his failed appeal, Dato Sri Najib was granted a stay of execution by the Court of Appeal for his sentence of 12 years imprisonment and 210 million ringgit fine, pending the outcome of his appeal at the federal court. Gabungan Parti Sarawak GPS has pledged to maintain political stability and autonomy in its 34-point manifesto that was launched on Wednesday night. The coalition's chairman, Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, said GPS's election manifesto aims to ensure Sarawak achieves the status of developed and high-income state by 2030.
GPS telah meletakkan asas pembangunan yang strategik untuk memastikan kemajuan berterusan Sarawak. Usaha membangunkan Sarawak hanya akan dapat direalisasikan sekiranya GPS terus diberi mandat untuk menarajui kepimpinan Sarawak melalui pilihan raya negeri.
Among the highlights in the manifesto was to ensure native customary rights and native territorial domain titles were upheld and acknowledged. Tan Sri Abang Johari also said GPS's election manifesto aims to narrow the income gap among locals by creating more job opportunities. Other points in the manifesto included promises to uphold Sarawak's rights based on the Federal Constitution and Malaysia Agreement 1963, eradicate urban and rural poverty, and to spur the state's digital economy. The coalition also pledged to make more affordable housing available, improve access to electricity and water, and widen telecommunications coverage in Sarawak. Tan Sri Abang Johari also said that the state government had implemented over 100 game-changing initiatives for Sarawak's socio-economic development. These, he said, included infrastructure projects like the Pan-Borneo Highway, a coastal road project involving the construction of 10 bridges, the construction of 300 telecommunications towers, as well as water and electricity supply projects to ensure 100% coverage by 2025. He added the state government also spent some 5.3 billion ringgit on COVID-19 aid packages during the pandemic. He also urged Sarawakians to not gamble with their future by supporting parties that have failed to fulfill the needs of Sarawakians and cannot fulfill promises they made. Earlier, when officiating the groundbreaking ceremony of the Sentosa Hawker Centre site at Jalan Liu Shan Bang, Tan Sri Abang Johari asked the people to look at the track record of GPS and what it has done for the people over the years before judging.
Kita cakap, kita buat, tapi orang lain cakap sana sini, tapi tidak buat. Siapa yang teruk? Rakyat yang teruk.
Tan Sri Abang Johari also reminded people to make the right judgment of things that are presented on social media, especially around this election time. Tan Sri Abang Johari hoped that those who have been trading at the Kota Sentosa Market car park will be more comfortable once the new centre is completed. Students are allowed to state their opinions about the government, but it must be based on facts and not let their emotions influence their actions. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that students should express their opinions, especially relating to government policies based on facts and solid evidence. Speaking at the launch of the Keluarga Malaysia at IPT initiative at University Pendidikan Sultan Idris in Tanjung Malim, Perak on Wednesday, the Prime Minister said this is important as students represent the group of people who the government has allowed to vote and elect the next leaders of the country. He said the government had also recognized the roles of the young people in the country by approving the implementation of the 18-year-old voting age, despite many voicing skepticism about the government's decision on the issue, as it is their view that 18-year-olds are still deemed too young and naive to decide about who should lead the country.
Kerajaan hari ini mengiktiraf peranan golongan muda. Apabila kerajaan membenarkan undi 18 tahun, ini menunjukkan bahawa kerajaan yakin kepada kemampuan pelajar untuk menentukan siapa yang mereka pilih dan siapa yang sepatutnya menjadi pemimpin di negara kita ini.
As such, the Prime Minister said starting January 1st, all who have reached the age of 18 will be automatically registered as voters in the formation of government and in deciding the future of the country. Also present at the event were Perak Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Sarani Muhammad, Higher Education Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Noraini Ahmad, Energy and Natural Resources Minister Datuk Sri Takayuddin Hassan and Deputy Education Minister Datuk Dr. Ma Hang Sun. The Dewan Negara on Wednesday unanimously approved the motion to revoke 7 emergency ordinances. This after it was tabled by Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Mas Ermiyati Samsudin, and debated by 6 Dewan Negara members. Datuk Mas Ermiyati said the criteria used to declare an emergency included any matter that could threaten the country's safety, economy and public order as contained in Article 150 of the Federal Constitution. While winding up the debate, she said the emergency proclamation following the spread of COVID-19 was a proactive measure and the best choice to ensure that the situation did not deteriorate and, after consideration, was justified to ensure that Malaysians were not severely affected by the global pandemic. She added that the government would ensure that the revocation of the 7 ordinances would not affect efforts to control the COVID-19 threat, to ensure the well-being of Malaysians, the country's national security and public order, as well as the recovery of the national economy. Datuk Mas Ermiyati also tabled the Advocates Ordinance Sabah Amendment Bill 202 for the second reading. The Dewan Negara then passed the bill without amendments with a majority. The Dewan Negara sitting continues on Thursday. Indonesia is expected to send out 5,000 to 10,000 of its citizens next month to work in Malaysia. Human Resources Minister Datuk Sri M. Saravanan said the number included workers who would work in the construction and manufacturing sectors and domestic workers.
Dan salah satu isu yang dibangkitkan adalah penginapan untuk pekerja asing, khususnya di sektor-sektor pembinaan dan pembuatan. Dan saya telah memberi jaminan bahawa sekiranya Indonesia menandatangani MOU di antara Malaysia dan Indonesia, nasib pekerja mereka akan dibela dengan pelbagai langkah-langkah.
Datuk Sri Saravanan said that a team from the ministry will be going to Indonesia on December 14th to look into the technical terms of the Memorandum of Understanding on recruitment and placement of Indonesian domestic workers before the two parties sign it in January next year, adding that Indonesia can send its workers to Malaysia in the same month. Datuk Sri Saravanan said this in a press conference after launching the country's first integrated centralized labour quarters, ICLQ, at the Pasir Gudang industrial area on Wednesday. He added that during the meeting, Indonesia requested for Malaysia to set the minimum wage for its domestic workers at 1,500 ringgit. Datuk Sri Saravanan, however, said it would be difficult for Malaysia to do so as the minimum wage in this country was set at 1,200 ringgit. As such, he said the decision will ultimately be left to the employers, but gave his assurance that the salary will start from 1,200 ringgit. Datuk Sri Saravanan also said that the ministry took its own initiative to assure the Indonesian government that their citizens' well-being would be taken care of while working in Malaysia. He said the ministry, through the Labour Department, will be forming a special committee to carry out random checks on domestic helpers at their respective employers' houses. Meanwhile, the Integrated Centralized Labour Quarters, ICLQ, which is being developed at the Pasir Gudang industrial area, will become an example and module used for the development of foreign worker housing in Malaysia. Datuk Sri Saravanan said the ICLQ is the first foreign workers' quarters in the country built based on global workers' accommodation safety standards. He said the development of the ICLQ not only guaranteed accommodations for these workers, it will guarantee their welfare, security and comfort, besides facilitating monitoring and enforcement aspects of such forms of housing. Datuk Sri Saravanan said the first phase of the ICLQ's construction will be completed by October 2022, and it will consist of 4 blocks of hostels involving 222 units accommodating 8,000 workers. The second phase of construction, which will begin after October 2022, will involve housing that will accommodate another 8,000 workers. Still to come on Nightline, government to ensure those with long COVID get sufficient treatment. Stay tuned.
Freezer.
The Health Ministry will ensure that former COVID-19 patients with complications or are expected to experience long COVID complications have adequate medical access. First Deputy Health Minister Dr. Noor Azmi Ghazali told the Dewan Rakyat that those already identified with the condition will be given appointment dates to visit health facilities and relevant specialists after being discharged from the hospital.
Bagi pesakit yang turut mempunyai penyakit kronik atau komorbid seperti darah tinggi, kencing manis dan sebagainya, mereka akan diminta untuk meneruskan rawatan susulan di fasiliti kesihatan seperti yang telah dijadualkan sebelum mereka dijangkiti COVID. Sekiranya mereka tidak mempunyai rawatan susulan biasa, mereka akan dirujuk kepada pakar tertentu.
Dr. Noor Azmi said this when replying to a question from Sibuti Member of Parliament, Lukanisman Awang Saun, on Wednesday. He added that until last November, a total of 16,800 former COVID-19 patients were given appointments for follow-up treatments at health facilities for the purpose of monitoring and receiving treatment for long COVID symptoms. According to the Health Ministry website, long COVID is a syndrome that former COVID-19 patients will continue to show for the next 12 weeks or more, and the symptoms cannot be explained with any alternative diagnosis. The government has formed a special task force to look into allegations by former Attorney General Tan Sri Tommy Thomas in his book titled My Story, Justice in the Wilderness. The special task force will be chaired by Sarawak State Legal Advisor and former Sarawak State Attorney General Datuk Sri Fong Joo Chung. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, explained that a special task force was formed to carry out preliminary studies relating to allegations contained in the book, including allegations involving issues of appointment of judges, excessive intervention by the executive arm of government in the judicial system, and selective prosecution. He said at the same time the police have also opened investigation papers to investigate these allegations. The other members on the task force are former Sabah State Secretary Dato' Hashim Paijan, former Women, Family and Community Development Ministry's Secretary General Dato' Junaida Kamarudin, former Judge Dato' Jagjit Singh Bant Singh, as well as lawyers Dato' Shahruddin Ali and Balaguru Karupia. Also to be included in the task force are representatives from interested ministries and departments, such as the National Centre for Governance, Integrity and Anti-Corruption, GIACC, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, the Police and the Chief Government Security Office, or CGSO. The Legal Affairs Division, Prime Minister's Department and the Attorney General's Chambers will act as secretariat for the task force. Dato' Sri Wan Junaidi said the Cabinet memorandum relating to the formation of this special task force, including its terms of reference, membership and financial implications, will be presented for the Cabinet's consideration and approval in the near future. Tan Sri Thomas was appointed as Attorney General on June 4, 2018, for a 2-year term by then Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, after Pakatan Harapan won the 14th general election. He resigned on February 28 last year, 4 months after his contract expired following the fall of the PH government. Among the allegations stated in his memoir include abuse of power in appointing judges, alleged interference of the executive body in the judicial system, and claims of selective prosecution. At least 13 killed after chopper carrying India's defense chief crashes. This and more when Nightline returns. Welcome back. On to the foreign front now. Olaf Scholz has been confirmed as Germany's new chancellor, bringing an end to Angela Merkel's historic 16 years as leader. He was voted in by the German parliament, where his three-party coalition has a substantial majority, and given a standing ovation.
Herr Olaf Scholz hat die erforderliche Mehrheit von mindestens 369 Stimmen erreicht. Er ist gemäß Artikel 63 Absatz 2 des Grundgesetzes zum Bundeskanzler der Bundesrepublik Deutschland gewählt.
Lawmakers in Germany's parliament voted by 395 to 303 to elect Scholz, with 6 abstentions, a comfortable majority, though short of the 416 seats his three-party coalition holds in the 736-seat lower house of parliament. 63-year-old Scholz was formally appointed by Germany's president, then returned to parliament to be sworn in. Scholz's government takes office with high hopes of modernizing Germany and combating climate change, but faces the immediate challenge of handling the country's toughest phase yet of the coronavirus pandemic. The handover of power marks an end to Merkel's 31-year political career. An Indian Air Force helicopter carrying Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat, his staff and other defence officials has crashed in Tamil Nadu state on Wednesday. According to authorities, 13 out of 14 people on board have been confirmed dead, but it is not yet clear whether Rawat has survived the crash or not. According to the Indian Air Force, Rawat was travelling to the Defence Services Staff College in Wellington in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu to deliver a lecture when the Russian-made Mi-17V5 chopper crashed in Kurnool, which is on the flight path. Also on board the helicopter were Rawat's wife, defence assistant, security commandos, and an IAF pilot. India's Air Force also confirmed that an inquiry was underway to ascertain the cause of Wednesday's accident. Following the crash, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called for an emergency cabinet meeting, while Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is expected to address Parliament later on Thursday. The Thai authorities intercepted nearly 900 kilograms of crystal methamphetamine hidden in a cargo shipment at Bangkok's Port Customs Office and bound for Taiwan, where it could be sold for up to $88 million. Customs Department Director General Pachara Anantasil attributed the seizure to a tip-off from an informant who told the authorities that a huge haul of illegal narcotics was to be shipped. The boxes were screened through an X-ray and were found to contain packets of the powdered drug stuffed inside 161 silicone sheets. He also said that this particular shipment was not related to an earlier consignment of 400 kilograms of heroin, which had originated in Thailand but was seized in Taiwan. According to Pachara, the police are investigating where the drugs were packaged before being delivered to the port, adding that this shipment is believed to have belonged to a Thai-Taiwanese drug trafficking gang. Myanmar registered their first win in the 2020 AFF Suzuki Cup. Sports is coming up next. Sports football, the 2020 AFF Suzuki Cup. Myanmar registered their first win of the campaign as they beat Timor-Leste 2-0 in their Group A clash on Wednesday. Myanmar took the lead in the 14th minute thanks to a header from Tan Pine, before skipper Mang Mang Luin doubled their lead 5 minutes after the restart to seal the win. With the win, Anthony Hayes' side climbed to third spot of Group A with 3 points after 2 matches, while Timor-Leste remained at the bottom after 2 defeats and conceding 4 goals. And that's it from Nightline. As we wrap, we leave you with visuals from the Palace of Stardust Light Rail at the Hampton Court, United Kingdom, featuring a fascinating wonderland of clocks, moons, planets and sundials. Let's take a look. I'm Raymond Go. Thank you for tuning in and make sure you stay safe.